Hello, everybody. It's your boy Brainzy. Welcome to day 78 in workout grind. Currently, it's 10:22 a.m. and it's Sunday. So it's been a while since I've streamed back again. For the whole week, I haven't been actually working out, which is stupid crazy. I've been left alone in this house for the whole week, and they're gonna come back in Wednesday. So it's just me. I thought that I would be like super hyper um active, like, because I don't have any other restrictions. They're not here, so I can do whatever the fuck I want, right? Turns out I'm very susceptible to change and I respond negatively. I have to address that kind of stuff, kind of behavior, because it's bad. But it looks like I'm doing well now. I clean up finally the rest of the fucking area, so I could just focus on just doing personal stuff. Woke up at 9 something, 9:40 ish, 9:15 ish. Then watched some YouTube. That's very unoptimized, but that's all right. I also bought some stuff from like AliExpress or whatever, so that's good. Paid some subscriptions, and now I'm gonna take some vitamins, multivitamins, and caffeine pills. Actually, I'm not gonna do caffeine pills. I'm gonna finish this because there's still some around, and I don't want to keep them around. So, here you go. I refilled. So yeah, here you go. Caffeine pills are always super fucking convenient for me because it's just you lob one in and boom, you already get the caffeine boost that you need. It's very portable, easy procedure, no setups, no whatever. It gets the job done, and it's not so like that. It's cheap as fuck. It's crazy. Anyways, I don't know if you're looking at the title, but it says short hair. The last stream I had, I was very long hair, and right now I have short hair. I used a new razor that I have that my sister gifted to me, which is pretty cool. Still in a whip process here. It doesn't. It looks ass, but I like it. I like it. It's with the help of my girlfriend. Anyways, as you can see at the background, I also have my gift for myself, which is it's a portable keyboard. No, it's a foldable thing. I thought it has a MIDI functionality. That's the reason why I bought it, because I thought it has touch sensitive keys. It has like it's foldable. That's for sure. And it's MIDI, bro. Oh my god. To be fair, the quality of the keyboard in this one is much better than the one that I had before. But at least that one has like the USB compatibility of a MIDI. This one doesn't. It promises you that it has a MIDI functionality through Bluetooth. And I thought, okay, he has a functionality in Bluetooth that would also mean he had a functionality to have a MIDI through direct cables, right? Like, who wouldn't think of that? Fucking dumbass. Turns out they are dumbass, and it doesn't really have a MIDI functionality in the USB, so I'm stuck with this stupid fucking thing not being able to be connected to my FL Studio, so I'm not gonna make any music anytime soon with this one, but that's alright. I really just want to play, pieces. So it still that's the thing that I primarily bought it to be. Um, Looking forward to crunch some grind times in this thing as well, in replacement to my unhealthy habits of just binge watching fucking House. Like every time I open up the Netflix downstairs, I get an instant time warp of 4 hours. Anyways, I'm gonna try to change that habit and gonna do some workout I missed that arms workout, which is supposedly yesterday. So supposedly today is gonna be like chest day, but I decided it's gonna be another arm day, then tomorrow chest day, and then Tuesday arm day. You know, just because I like arms. I like big arms. I think that's it. Uh, what else I need to tell you? New change, new change. That's pretty much it. You know, there's nothing much going on. Ah. Anyways, let's start. Oh, yeah, let's go. Oh, I'm gonna do some whitening strips as well. Hold on. Let me just do stupid whitening strips. Can you see my teeth getting whiter? I don't really see it. Oh, oh, in this stream, the shade of the color of my eyes and my teeth is actually the same, but like it's not in real life. It's like 2-3 shades more yellower. I don't know. But hopefully after I finish all these whitening strips, it's gonna be like 2 shades whiter. Whoa! Worth the $30 investment. Worth it. Fuck yeah. Shit. It's not good to use webcam point of reference. It's ass. Hold on. Good. Other thingy. And we're up to the race after this. Poggers, man, big pog. This might be being unable to do the proper workout grinds. I did manage to do some jogging for 15 kilometers every day. I mean, for the one day that I tasked myself to jog, I did it while working and treadmilling, which is cool. Which is cool. Okay, let's officially start this fucking workout. Today, I discovered a new channel to listen to podcasts to. I don't know if it's because I was just straight on focused on just cleaning chores and shit, or it's just their channel is ass. I'm sorry, but I didn't really take much from it. I'm gonna go stick with Andrew Huberman. See if there's anything cool to watch that I haven't watched yet. Erasing fears and traumas based on a modern neurosciences fear. Huh? Chill, chill. Okay. Perfect your sleep. This one's better. Okay, I'm gonna use fake. So yeah, we're listening to Andrew Huberman this time around. I'm gonna change the thingy. Where's the thingy? Hmm. Hmm. This one.
On jet lag and shift work. And while today's
Let's
episode
go.
is not specifically about jet lag and shift work, we are going to cover tools that will allow you to shift your schedule if you need to for work or travel. And we will also cover tools that will allow you to fall back asleep if you happen to wake up in the middle of the night, or if you get a poor night's sleep, how to actually recover from that poor night's sleep more quickly. And yes, indeed, even replace sleep that you've lost. So today's episode is going to be filled with practical tools. We will touch on some of the underlying science, but it's really designed to be a practical toolkit for optimizing your sleep depending on your specific sleep needs. Various times throughout today's episode, I will refer to studies that form the backbone of the tools that I'll be describing. But whereas most of the podcast episodes here tend to be deep scientific mechanism and then tools, scientific mechanism, then tools, today I'm mainly going to focus on the practical tools that anyone, indeed all people I believe, should use in order to optimize their sleep. Why should everybody want to optimize their sleep and put considerable effort into optimizing their sleep? Well, put simply, sleep is the foundation of mental health, physical health, and performance of all kinds, cognitive performance, physical performance, etc. It also controls things like our immune system, wound healing, our skin health, and our appearance, whether or not we can think clearly or not, whether or not we will live as long as we possibly can or not, whether or not we suffer from dramatic age-related cognitive decline or not. In other words, whether or not we keep our memory as we age. I could go on and on about all the terrible things that can happen to somebody if they don't sleep well. Thanks to the great work of Professor Matt Walker at University of California, Berkeley, and the wonderful book that he wrote, Why We Sleep, I think the world is largely on board now that sleep is critical to our health, our mental health, our physical health, and our performance. But what's not often discussed is how great life is. That is, how much more focused and energetic and how positive our mood gets when we are sleeping for the appropriate amount of time at the appropriate depth and when we are doing that regularly. Basically, everything in life gets better when we're sleeping well. So today, I'm going to teach you the tools that will allow you to optimize your sleep. That is, get to sleep and stay asleep, fall back asleep if you wake up in the middle of the night, and adjust your sleep given the various life demands you may be experiencing. I'm pleased to announce that the Huberman Lab podcast is now partnered with Momentous Supplements. We partnered with Momentous for several important reasons. First of all, they ship internationally because we know that many of you are located outside of the United States. That's valuable. Second of all, and perhaps most important, the quality of their supplements is second to none, both in terms of purity and precision of the amounts of the ingredients. Third, we've really emphasized supplements that are single ingredient supplements and that are supplied in dosages that allow you to build a supplementation protocol that's optimized for cost, that's optimized for effectiveness, and that you can add things and remove things from your protocol in a way that's really systematic and scientific. This is really hard to do if you're taking blends of different supplements or if the dosages are such that you can't titrate, or that is, adjust the dosages of a given supplement. So by using single ingredient supplements, you can really build out the supplement kit that's ideal for you and your specific needs. If you'd like to see the supplements that we partner with Momentous on, you can go to livemomentous.com/Huberman. There you'll see those supplements, and just keep in mind that we are constantly expanding the library of supplements available through Momentous on a regular basis. Again, that's livemomentous.com/Huberman. Before we begin, I'd like to emphasize that this podcast is separate from my teaching and research roles at Stanford. It is, however, part of my desire and effort to bring zero cost to consumer information about science and science-related tools to the general public. In keeping with that theme, I'd like to thank the sponsors of today's podcast. Our first sponsor is Inside Tracker. Inside Tracker is a personalized nutrition platform that analyzes data from your blood and DNA to help you better meet your health goals. I've long been a believer in getting regular blood work done for the simple reason that many of the factors that impact your immediate and long-term health can only be analyzed from a quality blood test. And nowadays, with the advent of modern DNA tests, you can also get insight into, for instance, what your biological age is and compare that to your chronological age. And of course, your biological age is really the age that counts. The problem with a lot of blood tests and DNA tests out there, however, is that you get information back about the levels of metabolic factors, lipids, hormones, etc., but you don't know what to do with that information. Inside Tracker makes that all very easy to navigate. They have a personalized platform, so this is a web portal where you can go, you'll see the numbers from Huberman to get your number, but your health and your energy and focus throughout the day. 8 sleep is 50 ratios in order for those nerves. When you exercise, remembering information to moving your muscles deliberately. When you exercise, or even if you don't, you can get quite low on electrolytes, especially on a hot day. You can get dehydrated. There are a lot of different ways to replenish your fluids and electrolytes, and there are a lot of different electrolyte drinks out there, but many of them contain a lot of sugar. And some of those that don't contain a lot of sugar don't have the proper ratios of sodium, magnesium, and potassium. If you'd like to try Element, you can go to DrinkElement, that's lmnt.com/Huberman, to claim a free Element sample pack with your first purchase. Again, that's DrinkElement.com/Huberman to claim a free sample pack. Let's talk about sleep and tools to optimize your sleep. I want you to conceptualize yourself as contained within a room that has only very few windows or very few entry points. What do I mean by this? Well, your brain and your nervous system control whether or not you move or don't move. They control whether or not you're digesting food or you're not digesting food. They control whether or not you're stressed or not stressed, happy or sad, etc. All of that stuff that controls all that stuff is housed inside your skin and skull, etc. That might seem pretty obvious, but what that means is that for your brain and body to feel alert and focused, ready to move and exercise or do some work, or if your brain and body are going to lie down and go to sleep, well, that brain and body needs cues. It needs inputs to determine when to do those different things. And those cues and inputs arrive through a defined set of what I'll call stimuli, but you can also think of these as levers or tools. The main levers and tools that are going to allow you to control when you are awake and when you are asleep and to get better sleep every single night are light, literally photons, light energy. Could be from sunlight, could be from artificial light. We will discuss those particulars in a moment, as well as darkness. That is the absence of light. So we've got light and dark. Those are two very powerful tools to encourage your nervous system to be in one state or another, meaning awake or asleep. Temperature is another tool or lever. Turns out that when your body is cooling down, you have a greater tendency to fall and stay asleep. In fact, every night when you actually sleep, your body is dropping by 1 to 3 degrees, and that drop in temperature is required. It's like a gate that your body has to go through in order for you to get into sleep. And in fact, the converse is also true. If your body heats up by 1 to 3 degrees or so, you will wake up. So you've got light, dark, temperature, food. And when we say food, we mean what we eat, when we eat, and the amount that we eat. Okay, so light, dark, temperature, food, exercise. And of course, exercise comes in different forms. We can do cardiovascular exercise. That can be low intensity, long distance exercise. It can be high intensity, so-called high intensity interval training. It could be weight training. It could be yoga. It could be swimming, any number of different activities. But exercise in general causes an increase in body temperature and tends to make us more alert, not just during the exercise, but in the immediate hours after that exercise. Exercise does some other things that relate to our sleep as well, and we'll talk about those today and how you can leverage them. Another potent lever for adjusting your sleepiness and wakefulness is caffeine. This, of course, comes as no surprise to people, but why and how caffeine works might come as a surprise. Very briefly, we have a molecule in our body called adenosine, and the longer we have been awake, the more adenosine builds up in our brain and body, and adenosine is part of the reason why we get sleepy. Caffeine effectively operates as a adenosine antagonist. It works by basically occupying the receptor for adenosine, so it's a little bit of a convoluted mechanism, but basically all you need to know is that caffeine prevents the actions of adenosine. That's one of the reasons why caffeine makes us feel alert. But how much caffeine we drink and when we drink caffeine turns out to be vitally important for adjusting our wakefulness and for optimizing our sleep. So we'll talk about that as well. The other category of lever tools, which are immensely powerful for optimizing sleep, are supplements. There now exist as many as 8 different supplements that can powerfully modulate sleep in healthy ways and that have huge margins for safety. So we're going to talk about what those supplements are. In previous episodes of this podcast and as a guest on other podcasts, I've talked about 3 particular supplements: magnesium threonate, apigenin, and theanine, which together can really enhance the speed at which one falls asleep and people's ability to stay asleep. and to really get into those deep stages of sleep. They're particularly restorative. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about each of those three and how they can best be used in combination. But we are also going to touch on some other supplements that I have not talked about much before, if at all. Things like glycine and
I feel nauseous. I gotta eat something, I think. Just a second. Yo, I'm back. Ah! Where is I? Right. Oh, I think I need to. Where's my? Oh.
GABA, as well as inositol. Many people are going to find inositol interesting and of particular use to them, especially if they're following a low carbohydrate diet or if they are fasting before sleep or just trying to avoid eating too close to bedtime and yet they're having a hard time falling asleep. Inositol also turns out to be especially useful for people who have a tendency to wake up in the middle of the night and have a hard time falling back asleep. It also has some interesting and potent effects on anxiety throughout the day. So we're going to talk about inositol as a tool as well. And then last in our list of general categories of levers and tools for optimizing sleep are digital tools. When I say digital tools, I don't necessarily mean devices. What I mean are things like non-sleep deep rest scripts. These are zero-cost scripts that you listen to that take your body through some deep relaxation and that can help people both fall asleep, stay asleep, fall back asleep, and get better at sleeping. And also going to talk about digital tools related to self-hypnosis. This is distinctly different from stage hypnosis. So I know some of you hear hypnosis and you think, oh, people, clucking like chickens and doing things that are outside their control. That's not at all what I'm referring to here. I'm talking about clinically and research-supported tools that have been shown to enhance people's ability to fall and stay asleep and that can get you far better at sleeping. So again, to recap the list of levers and tools, we've got light and dark. And that includes the intensity of light, the timing of light, etc. We've got temperature, we have food, we have exercise, caffeine, supplements, and digital tools, not just limited to devices, but zero-cost tools that you can access on YouTube and elsewhere in various apps that can really help you optimize your sleep. So today we're going to talk about all of these. I really want to provide you as many tools as possible, give you the logic behind each of those tools and when and how best to apply them so that you can develop the sleep toolkit that's ideal for your sleep needs. As we head into our description of tools for optimizing sleep, let's consider what the perfect 24-hour cycle would look like. Let's start this 24-hour cycle with when you wake up in the morning. So for some of you, that will be 5 a.m. For others of you, that will be 10 a.m. Most people, I believe, wake up sometime between 6:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. But regardless of when you wake up in the morning, one of the first things that happens is that your body temperature is increasing. And that's just going to happen naturally. Some of it is going to be the consequence of your moving around a bit, but really the increase in body temperature is one of the main triggers for why you woke up in the first place. That increase in body temperature, in turn, causes an increase in the release of a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is often discussed as a stress hormone, but it's not just associated with stress. It also enhances your immune system, provided cortisol is elevated at the right times. And the right time for cortisol to be elevated is when you first wake up in the morning. That increase in cortisol is also going to increase metabolism. It's also going to increase your ability to focus mentally and for you to move your body. So again, cortisol is often demonized and considered this bad thing. And indeed, you don't want cortisol to be chronically or consistently elevated throughout the day or night. But you do want cortisol to reach its peak early in the day, right about the time you wake up. One way that you can ensure that that cortisol peak occurs early in the day, right about the time that you wake up, is to view bright light, ideally from sunlight, within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking. That's right. View bright sunlight within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking. I'll get into all the caveats about what happens if you wake up before the sun is out. What if you live in the UK where there is no sun, or people claim there is no sun? Hate to tell you this, folks, but there is sun in the UK. We'll talk about all that. But everybody, whether or not you live in a cloudy place or a sunny place, whether or not there's cloud cover or not that day, should really strive to get bright light in your eyes, ideally from sunlight, within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking. The reason for that is very simple. You want to trigger that cortisol increase to occur very early in your day. And you don't want that cortisol peak to happen later, which is what will happen if you wait to get outside and see sunlight. The reason for this is that you have a set of neurons, nerve cells in your eye. They're called intrinsically photosensitive melanopsin cells, but you do not need to know that name. Those neurons respond best to bright light, and especially right after waking early in the day, they are best able to signal to a set of neurons that reside over the roof of your mouth called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is a cluster of neurons that then sends a huge number of other signals, electrical and chemical, out to your entire body that triggers that cortisol increase, provides a wake-up signal for your brain and body, and sets in motion a timer for you to fall asleep later that night. So again, we're not trying to go into too much mechanism today. We are trying to really hammer on tools, and I'll substantiate those tools just a bit with some mechanism. But here's what you do, or at least here's what I do. I wake up in the morning and I want to reach for my phone. But I know that even if I were to crank up the brightness on that phone screen, it's not bright enough to trigger that cortisol spike and for me to be at my most alert and focused throughout the day and to optimize my sleep at night. So what I do is I get out of bed and I go outside. And if it's a bright, clear day and the sun is low in the sky, or the sun is, starting to get overhead, what we call low solar angle, then I know I'm getting outside at the right time. If there's cloud cover and I can't see the sun, I also know I'm doing a good thing, because it turns out, especially on cloudy days, you want to get outside and get as much light energy or photons in your eyes. But let's say it's a very clear day and I can see where the sun is. I do not need to stare directly into the sun. If it's very low in the sky, I might do that because it's not going to be very painful to my eyes. However, if the sun is a little bit brighter and a little bit higher in the sky, sometimes it can be painful to look at. So the way to get this sunlight viewing early in the day is to look toward the sun. If it's too bright to look at directly, well, then don't do that. You just look toward it, but not directly at it. It's absolutely fine to blink. In fact, I encourage you to blink whenever you feel the impulse to blink. Never look at any light, sunlight or otherwise, that's so bright that it's painful to look at because you can damage your eyes. But for this morning sunlight viewing, it's best to not wear sunglasses. That's right, to not wear sunglasses, at least for this morning sunlight viewing. It is absolutely fine to wear eyeglasses or contact lenses, so-called corrective lenses. In fact, those will serve you well in this practice or this tool, because they will focus the light onto your neural retina and onto those melanopsin intrinsically photosensitive ganglion cells. If your eyeglasses or contact lenses have UV protection, that's okay. There's so many different wavelengths of light coming from the sun, and they are bright enough that they will trigger the mechanisms that you want triggered at this early time of day. So try and get outside, ideally within the first 5 minutes of waking, or maybe it's 15 minutes, but certainly within the first hour after waking. I want to share with you 3 critical things about this tool of morning sunlight viewing. First of all, this is not some woo biology thing. This is grounded in the core of our physiology. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of quality peer-reviewed papers showing that light viewing early in the day is the most powerful stimulus for wakefulness throughout the day, and it has a powerful positive impact on your ability to fall and stay asleep at night. So this is really the foundational power tool for ensuring a great night's sleep and for feeling more awake during the day. Second of all, if you wake up before the sun is out, you can and probably should flip on artificial lights in your internal home environment or apartment or wherever you happen to live, if your goal is to be awake. Right? If you wake up at 4 a.m. and you need to be awake, well, then turn on artificial lights. Once the sun is out, however, once the sun has risen, then you still want to get outside and view sunlight. Some of you will wake up before the sun comes out, and if you're asking whether or not turning on artificial lights can replace sunlight at those hours, unfortunately, the answer is no. Unless you have a very special light, we'll talk about what kind of light. The bright artificial lights in your home environment are not, I repeat, are not going to be sufficiently bright to turn on the cortisol mechanism and the other wake-up mechanisms that you need early in the day. The diabolical twist, however, is that those lights in your home or apartment or even on your phone are bright enough to disrupt your sleep if you look at them too late at night or in the middle of the night. So there's this asymmetry in our retinal, our eye biology, and in our brain's biology, whereby early in the day, right around waking, you need a lot of light, a lot of photons, a lot of light energy. And artificial lights generally just won't accomplish what you need them to accomplish. But at night, even a little bit of artificial light can really mess up your so-called circadian, your 24-hour clocks, and all these mechanisms that we're talking about. So if you wake up before the sun is out and it's still dark, please turn on as many bright artificial lights as you possibly can or need, but then get outside once the sun is out. On cloudy days, you especially need to get outside. I repeat, on cloudy days, overcast days, you especially need to get outside and get sunlight. You just need to get more of it. Now, how much light and how much light viewing do you need? This is going to vary depending on person and place, literally where you live on Earth, whether or not there's a lot of tree cover, whether or not you're somebody who has sensitive eyes or less sensitive eyes. It's really impossible for me to give an absolute prescriptive, but we can give some general guidelines. In general, on a clear day, meaning no cloud cover or minimal cloud cover, you want to get this sunlight exposure to your eyes for about 5 minutes or so. Could be 3 minutes one day, could be 7 minutes the next day, about 5 minutes. On a day where there's cloud cover, so the sun is just peeking through the clouds or it's more dense cloud cover, you want to get about 10 minutes of sunlight exposure to your eyes early in the day. And on days that are really densely overcast or maybe even a rainy, you're going to want to get as much as 20 or 30 minutes of sunlight exposure. Another key thing is do not forget about, just don't try and get this sunlight exposure through a windshield of a car or a window, whether or not it's tinted or otherwise. It takes far too long. It's simply not going to trigger the relevant mechanisms. You would be standing there all day trying to get enough light into your eyes from the morning sunlight, and by then the sun will have already moved from low solar angle to overhead, and it simply won't work for all sorts of mechanisms related to your circadian rhythm functions. So just don't try and do it through a windshield, sunglasses, or a window. It's just not going to work. Get outside. If the weather is really bad or for whatever reason, safety reasons, you cannot get outside, well then I suppose try and get near a window. That would be the last resort. But you really want to get outside to get this sunlight exposure. Now, if you live in a part of the world where it's extremely dark and overcast, or the weather won't let you outside, or you live in a cave or some other small box that does not allow any natural light into it for whatever reason, well, then you're going to need a replacement for that sunlight. And there are sunlight simulators or daylight simulators that you can purchase. Those are quite expensive in general, and therefore, I suggest cheaper options that work just as well because they get just as bright. Things like ring lights that are sold in order for people to take selfies and this kind of thing. A drawing LED tablet will work pretty well. I actually have one of those and I put it on my desk all morning, even though I still get outside and look at sunlight first thing in the morning. Again, also, especially, I should say, on cloudy days. We do not have any affiliation to any ring lights or LED lights or these panels. So we will provide a link to a couple of different options if you want to explore the various options. I don't know what people's different budgets are. I don't know where people live. I just know that many of our listeners live in locations throughout the world where, for instance, during the winter, it gets very, very dark, so they can't get sufficient sunlight. But get that morning light, ideally from sunlight, and take into account all the specific points that I've given you here. And I should say, enjoy this practice. It's really nice to get outside first thing in the morning and get the sunlight. In fact, when you start doing this, you'll notice that your body will start to feel more energized, and it will feel more energized more quickly. You'll actually start to notice this mechanism kicking in each day, especially if you're paying attention to your physiology. So enjoy this practice of getting outside. Yes, you can take your morning beverage outside. Yes, you can take your dog with you. In fact, animals intuitively know to get this morning sunlight. They actually seek it out at the right times of days. We human beings need to be told by podcasters and other people about the science that supports these kinds of practices. Our pets apparently do not. But get outside alone or with somebody, with your kids, with your dog. However you go about this practice, make sure you do this practice at least 80% of the days of your life. That's right. If you miss a day, for instance, you're bedridden for a day, try and get next to a window. Let's say you are traveling or for whatever reason, you are not able to get outside first thing in the morning. Well, then try to get twice as much sunlight in your eyes, or I should say, extend the duration of sunlight viewing in the morning for twice as long the following day. This is a slow integrative mechanism that underlies this whole thing of wakefulness during the day and sleep at night due to sunlight viewing. And if you miss a day, you can make up for it the next day, but you have to get twice as much light or twice as much duration of light. If you really want to get technical and you really want to measure how much light is in your environment, you can download a free app, something like Light Meter, and that will allow your phone to act as a bit of a light meter. It give you a pretty accurate measurement of how many lux, which is a measure of brightness, are in your environment in the morning. And in general, that's just going to be a good tool for evaluating your environments. Here's what I suggest you do. Wake up in the morning, take Light Meter, point it at the brightest light in your home, and take a measurement. And what you'll probably find is it's about 1,000 lux. Now go outside, and if there's some sunlight out and there's cloud cover, point it at the sky and press that button. You can actually hold it down, and it'll give you a dynamically updated lux measurement. And what you'll find is like 5,000, 10,000, sometimes even 90,000 lux, even though you don't experience it as so much brighter. And that's because an indoor artificial light is very concentrated over a small spatial area, whereas the sunlight is very diffuse. But it's that diffuse, very bright sunlight, that photon energy that you really want, that's going to set all the rhythms of your brain and body in the proper way. Not just that cortisol peak, but it's going to trigger proper metabolism. It's going to set a timer for you to be able to fall asleep about 16 hours later, and on and on and on. And I should mention, within the on and on and on, it's also going to suppress any melatonin, a hormone that makes you sleepy, that happens to be swimming around in your bloodstream at the time you wake up. It does a number of other things too, including interact with the adenosine system and kind of wash out some of the adenosine that might still be residual if you didn't sleep enough. Fundamentally speaking, get that morning sunlight viewing. I promise you will be grateful that you did. It makes everybody feel better, feel more alert, and it will greatly assist with your ability to fall and stay asleep later that night. Before we continue with today's discussion, we're going to take a brief pause to acknowledge our sponsor, Athletic Greens, also called AG1. I started taking Athletic Greens way back in 2012, so I'm delighted that they've been a sponsor of this podcast. Athletic Greens contains vitamins, minerals, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and adaptogens. So it's got a lot of things in there. And that's actually the reason I started taking it, and the reason I still take it once or twice a day. It essentially covers all of my nutritional bases, and the probiotics in particular are important to me because of the critical importance of what's called the gut-brain axis. That is neurons and other cell types in the gut, in the digestive tract, that communicate with the brain and the brain back to the digestive tract in order to control things like mood, immune function, hormone function, and on and on. Whenever somebody has asked me what's the one supplement they should take, I always answer Athletic Greens. I gave that answer long before I ever had this podcast, and it's the answer I still give now for all the reasons that I detailed just a moment ago. If you'd like to try Athletic Greens, you can go to athleticgreens.com/Huberman to claim a special offer. They'll give you 5 free travel packs that make it really easy to mix up Athletic Greens while you're on the road, plus a year's supply of vitamin D3, K2, which are also very important for a huge number of bodily factors and brain factors that impact your immediate and long-term health. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Huberman to claim that special offer. Okay, so now we're still focusing on this early part of the day when you've woken up, like the first hour or so after waking. And we can go to our list of other levers and tools, right? We have light and dark. We already talked about light and sunlight in particular. We've got temperature, food, exercise, caffeine, supplements, and digital tools. Now, once you've woken up and you want to be awake, okay, so this is likely to be early in the day if you're following a more standard schedule, you will also want to leverage not just light, but temperature as a tool. If you are inclined, it would be wise to try and increase your core body temperature a bit more quickly than it would otherwise if you were to just shuffle around outside, get your sunlight, maybe read a little bit, etc. And there are 2 main ways you can do that. The first way is to get in into cold water of some